At my app launch party, my cousin plugged in his laptop and pitched my startup as his own. I just stood there, frozen as he stole 3 years of my work. Then smiled and said, Miles never had the guts to build this anyway. That was 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, I made a move that ended his career. Now he's bombarding my phone. Please, let me fix this. I still remember the exact moment I realized what was happening. Standing on that small stage, clicker in hand, halfway through my presentation when my own cousin stood up and destroyed 3 years of my life with a single sentence. Actually, I have a parallel project I'd like to share with the investors here tonight. My blood turned to ice. Logan, my cousin, the person who had crashed on my couch all summer while going through a tough time, the person who had watched me code until 4 a.m., the person I'd trusted with my dreams. I froze as he connected his laptop to the projector, and then it appeared on screen, my app, my interface, my animations, just with different colors and his voice narrating the tutorial. 3 years of my work, stolen in the most public way possible. Everyone was staring at me. The small group of angel investors I'd spent months courting, my friends who'd come to support me, even my parents were there. And all I could do was smile politely, like this wasn't absolutely gutting me from the inside out. As you can see, our approaches are similar, but mine has additional features Miles hasn't considered, Logan said smoothly, lying through his teeth to a room full of people who had no way of knowing the truth. I remember age 16, summer break. Logan and I built a treehouse behind my parents' place. We worked for weeks, splitting every splinter, every hammered thumb between us. We're not just cousins, we're brothers, he'd said the night we finished, drinking stolen beers under the stars. Family, first, always. The memory made what was happening now even more surreal. I stood there watching him describe my creation as his own, watching him field questions about development challenges I had solved, watching him exchange business cards with my potential investors. When it was finally over, I didn't make a scene. I didn't scream or throw punches or break down. I just collected my things, thanked everyone for coming, and drove home in complete silence. That night, I didn't sleep, not for a second. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and began methodically documenting everything. Email timestamps showing my development progress, Google Drive logs with edit history, text conversations from the summer when Logan stayed with me, asking innocent questions about my project, screenshots of my original wireframes dating back 3 years. I compiled it all into a comprehensive, irrefutable case. When the sun came up, I had 2 choices. I could either curl up in a ball and let him steal my future, or I could fight back with precision and professionalism. I submitted an official complaint to the incubator program Logan had pitched to, complete with all my evidence. I built a simple website comparing both apps side by side, with timestamps and documentation proving the original creation was mine. I reached out privately to each investor who had attended, sending them the evidence package and a calm, professional note explaining the situation. I should have seen the warning signs. Freshman year of college, Logan had submitted one of my essays as his own. When caught, he'd laughed it off. Come on, we're family. What's yours is mine, right? I'd forgiven him, even covered for him with our family. That's what cousins do. I'd told myself. His smile that day, I see it differently now. Within 48 hours, the situation had completely reversed. The incubator dropped Logan's application. The investors who had seemed interested all ghosted him. And then, something unexpected happened. A tech blog picked up the story. They featured my app and praised how I had handled the situation with remarkable restraint and professionalism. The article went viral in our local tech community. My phone buzzed nonstop with notifications from Logan. Dude, you're overreacting. It was just a similar idea. I can't believe you'd do this to family. Let's talk about this. We can work together. You're ruining my reputation. Each message made me feel physically ill. The audacity, the complete lack of remorse or accountability, the way he was trying to twist this around, making himself the victim. After 3 days of constant messages, he finally sent, "Let's not ruin the family over business." I stared at those words for a long time. Business. This wasn't business. This was betrayal. This was 3 years of my life, my savings, my dream stolen by someone who was supposed to have my back. I replied with just 4 words. You already did that. Then I blocked him on everything. Of course, the family fallout was inevitable. His parents, my aunt and uncle, called my parents, demanding they talk some sense into me. Some relatives took his side, saying I was being too harsh, that family should work things out. Others supported me, disgusted by what he had done. Sunday dinner at my grandmother's house, a 20-year tradition, became tense and awkward. Eventually, I stopped going. Some relationships were irreparably damaged, but I couldn't pretend everything was fine. Not when Logan showed up acting like the wounded party. In the end, his deception backfired spectacularly. Not only did he lose the opportunity to steal my work, but the incident became attached to his name in our relatively small tech community. His professional reputation was shattered. Several companies declined to interview him once they heard the story. Meanwhile, I launched my app properly. The publicity from the incident actually brought more attention than I would have received otherwise. The first round of funding closed successfully. I hired a small team. We're growing steadily now. Sometimes I think about the cost, not just the strain on our extended family, but the loss of someone I once considered a brother. There are days I catch myself reaching for my phone to share good news with him, before remembering who he really is. Blood made us cousins. His choices made us strangers. Update. First, I want to thank everyone for the overwhelming support on my original post. I didn't expect it to get so much attention, and reading your stories of similar betrayals has made me feel less alone in this. A lot has happened in the past 5 days, and I'm still processing most of it. The day after my post went viral, I received an email from Logan's now former business partner, Marcus. Apparently, Logan had brought Marcus into his version of my app as a technical co-founder about a month before the pitch event. Marcus had no idea that Logan had stolen the concept. He thought they were building something original. Marcus asked to meet for coffee, which I agreed to with some hesitation. When we met, he brought his laptop and showed me something that made my stomach drop. Additional code and design assets that Logan had taken from my computer during his stay. Stuff I hadn't even realized was missing. I found these when I was cleaning out the project files, Marcus explained. The folder names still had your initials on them. That's when I started getting suspicious. It turns out that Logan hadn't just stolen my current project. He had systematically copied years of my work prototypes, abandoned projects, even personal design templates. He had a library of my intellectual property. Marcus apologized profusely, even though none of this was his fault. He had quit immediately upon discovering the truth and wanted to make sure I had all the evidence. I thanked him for his integrity and asked why he was willing to burn this bridge with Logan. Because I was almost his next victim, Marcus said quietly. He tried to convince me to invest my savings in our company last week. If I hadn't discovered the truth, I would have lost everything. That night, I received a text from my Aunt Logan's mother. She asked if we could meet privately. I was hesitant but agreed to coffee at a public place. When she arrived, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Without preamble, she placed a small USB drive on the table. "These are files from Logan's computer," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "His father and I found them when we were helping him move back home. I didn't touch the drive." "Why are you giving me this?" "Because we raised him better than this," she said, tears in her eyes. "And because this isn't the first time." She told me that Logan had been fired from his previous 2 jobs under suspicious circumstances. He'd never given them the full story, but now they were connecting the dots. Their own son had a pattern of taking credit for other people's work. "We've been enabling him," she admitted, making excuses, believing his version of events. Not anymore. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated, but mostly I just felt sad for her, for them, for all of us. "We've told him he needs to make this right," she continued. "To publicly admit what he did and apologize, he refused. So we've asked him to move out until he's ready to take responsibility." I was stunned. I never expected my aunt and uncle to take such a firm stand. Family dynamics are complicated, and parents often defend their children regardless of the circumstances. "I'm sorry, Miles," she said before leaving. "We let you down too." The next day, Logan showed up at my apartment, furious. He pounded on my door, shouting that I had turned his own parents against him, that I was destroying his life over one mistake. I didn't open the door. I recorded his rant on my phone and called the police when he wouldn't leave. They escorted him from the property with a warning. Hours later, he sent a group email to our entire extended family. The email was a masterpiece of manipulation, painting himself as the victim, claiming I had overreacted to a simple misunderstanding and weaponized the family against him. He accused me of being jealous of his success and unable to handle competition. I didn't respond. I didn't have to, because the next morning, my grandmother, the matriarch of our family, replied, all with a single sentence. "I've seen the evidence. Logan, we all have." That one line from her carried more weight than anything I could have said. Coming from the woman who had always been his biggest champion, it was devastating. The family support for Logan crumbled overnight. The relatives who had initially taken his side went silent or reached out privately to apologize to me. His narrative collapsed completely. Meanwhile, my app has been featured in 2 more tech publications. We're gaining users faster than I had projected. Investor interest has exceeded my expectations. Logan continues to text me from new numbers after I block each one. The messages swing wildly from apologetic to threatening, then back to demanding another chance. I no longer read them. I'm moving forward with my company and my life, but I'll be much more careful about who I trust with both. Final update. It's been almost a month since my original post, and I want to give you all a final update on the situation with Logan. First, thank you for all the support and advice. This community has been an unexpected source of strength during one of the most difficult periods of my life. A week after my last update, I received a certified letter from a law firm representing Logan. He was threatening to sue me for defamation and sabotaging his career prospects. The letter demanded I take down the comparison website and issue a public statement clarifying that our projects had developed independently. I forwarded the letter to my attorney, who almost laughed when she read it. This is a desperate intimidation tactic, she explained. He has no case whatsoever. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation, and you have mountains of evidence. She drafted a response that essentially told Logan and his lawyer to pound sand. We included copies of the evidence again and warned that any legal action would result in a countersuit for harassment and legal fees. We never heard from his lawyer again. 3 days later, Logan lost his new job, a position he had started just a week earlier. I found out through a former colleague who now works at that company. Apparently, during the background check process, his new employer discovered the whole story about the stolen app. They have a zero-tolerance policy for ethical violations. I wasn't responsible for this. I have never reached out to any employer about Logan. His own actions and the public nature of what happened caught up with him. Last weekend was our grandmother's 80th birthday celebration, a big family event that had been planned for months. I debated not attending to avoid drama, but she personally called and asked me to be there. This family is healing, she said, and you need to be part of that process. When I arrived, Logan was nowhere to be seen. I later learned that he had been explicitly told not to attend by several family members, including his own parents. During a quiet moment, my grandmother pulled me aside and handed me a small box. Inside was my grandfather's watch, a family heirloom I had always admired as a child. He would have wanted you to have this, she said. He valued integrity above all else. I was speechless. This watch had been promised to Logan for as long as I could remember. It was another clear message from the family about where they stood. The next day, I received an email from Logan. Unlike his previous messages, this one was calm, almost resigned. I know you'll probably never forgive me, and I don't blame you. What I did was unforgivable. I'm getting help for my issues. I've been diagnosed with some things that explain my behavior but don't excuse it. I'm moving to Chicago next month for a fresh start. I won't contact you again unless you want me to. I'm sorry for everything. I sat with that email for a long time before deciding not to respond. Maybe someday I'll be ready to have a conversation with him. But not yet. The wounds are still too fresh. As for my company, we're doing better than I ever imagined. We've secured a second round of funding and are expanding our team. The app is growing steadily in users, and we've been approached by several larger companies about potential partnerships. Success is the best revenge, they say, but it doesn't feel like revenge anymore. It just feels like my life getting back on track after someone tried to derail it. I still have moments of anger and betrayal when I think about what Logan did. I still have dreams where I'm back at that pitch event, watching him steal my work in slow motion. But those moments are becoming less frequent. The hardest part in all of this wasn't losing Logan from my life. It was losing the person I thought he was. The cousin who helped build that treehouse. The friend who supposedly had my back. That person never existed. He was a character Logan played until it no longer served him. Sometimes I wonder if there was anything I could have done differently. If there were warning signs I missed. Red flags I ignored. But ultimately, I've realized this wasn't my failure. It was his. Blood made us cousins. His choices made us strangers. And my choices will define what happens next.